Welcome back. Today we're looking at a stack of sources that really claim the official story on national security is, well, a complete smokescreen.
Yeah, it's this contrast, isn't it? You hear mission accomplished in press releases, but then you look at the internal numbers, the leaked data.
And it shows something really different, lower standards, maybe even, systemic failure creeping in.
Exactly. And when the very systems meant to protect us, border security, military readiness, when they start showing cracks, you have to ask why.
So this deep dive, it's kind of a shortcut through all this material, cue research boards, news clips, policy notes to see these often hidden connections.
We're aiming to navigate these claims, institutional issues, security risks, even hints of, well, deep-seated corruption among elites.
We want you, the listener, to see the thread that ties these seemingly separate facts together.
Because the worry running through all this source material is really a crisis of confidence, isn't it?
Yeah. Who's benefiting if accountability drops? What happens when standards are just quietly lowered where it really matters?
Let's start with the border. It's maybe the most visible challenge right now, according to many sources.
Okay, yeah. We've got this specific example concerning E-Verify. That's the main system for checking if someone's authorized to work, right?
That's the one. And in this case involving someone named Evans, the system itself, run by Homeland Security, reported this person as an alien authorized to work.
So local officials use that information. They relied on it.
They did. But here's where it gets, well, strange. When the status was questioned later, a DHS official, Tricia McLaughlin, she didn't exactly apologize.
No, she seemed to flip it around.
She accused the local police of having a reckless reliance on the federal E-Verify system.
Wait, reckless reliance on the official government system they're supposed to use?
Precisely. Think about what that implies. The government sets up the checkpoint fails, and then the officials who trusted it get blamed.
It suggests the system isn't just, like, occasionally glitchy.
Maybe not. It could imply a lack of real accountability baked into the process. If E-Verify itself is unreliable, how can any serious immigration enforcement even function?
And this isn't happening in a vacuum. The backdrop is huge demographic shifts. These sources point to a statistic.
Yeah, roughly 5.5 million children in the U.S., born to at least one parent who's an undocumented immigrant.
That number definitely provides context for some of the political moves we're seeing.
It does. It helps explain why there's this GOP push for legislation like H.R. 569. That's the bill aiming to restrict birthright citizenship.
But challenging how the 14th Amendment is interpreted, right? The part about being born on U.S. soil.
Exactly. The argument seems to be if the government can't even reliably verify who's here legally now, then the whole question of automatic citizenship at birth becomes, well, extremely contentious.
And while we see these smaller publicized actions, ICE arresting, 84 illegal immigrants at a casino in Louisiana.
Right, things that make the news briefly.
The sources suggest those are maybe just for show compared to other larger movements happening behind the scenes.
Well, the claims are pretty startling. Some sources allege that while those small busts happen, the government has actually been flying, secretly, nearly 348,000 illegal aliens into states like Texas and Florida.
Using taxpayer money, allegedly.
That's the claim,
Yeah.
and it raises a big question. If the goal is just orderly control, why the secrecy? Is it really management or something else? Maybe displacing the existing security framework.
It keeps coming back to this theme in the sources, a lowering of standards. First, maybe at the border, and now potentially with the people meant to defend those borders.
Let's pivot to the military, specifically the Navy's recruiting numbers.
Okay, they hit their target, right? 40,978 new recruits in fiscal year 2024. Exceeded the goal, actually. Sounds good.
On the surface, yes, but the internal critiques we're seeing in the sources, they paint a very different picture. They argued this success wasn't really about better recruiting drives. It was achieved, allegedly, by lowering the quality standards, basically trading quality for quantity.
Are there specifics? What standards were changed?
Oh, yes, very specific. The Navy now allows people to enlist without a high school diploma or a GED.
Really? Without a diploma?
As long as they score 50 or higher on the Armed Forces Qualification Test, the AFQT. But that's not even the biggest change.
What's bigger than dropping the diploma requirement?
There's a pilot program cited that allows recruits scoring between the 10th and 30th percentile on that same AFQT test to enlist.
The 10th percentile. Just to clarify for everyone listening, that means 90% of people taking the test scored higher.
Correct. 90% scored better.
So in today's Navy, with incredibly complex ships, technology, weapon systems, what does bringing in personnel from the bottom 10th percentile mean for actual, readiness?
Well, it potentially means prioritizing having enough sailors over having sailors with the baseline aptitude needed for highly technical roles.
Modern naval warfare isn't simple.
Not at all. It needs sharp operators, technicians, cyber, nuclear tech, advanced systems. If you accept recruits who significantly struggle with basic cognitive benchmarks, you increase the risk. Risk of errors, accidents, not keeping pace with potential adversaries.
And this push for just raw numbers seems to clash with what other high-tech branches are saying they need.
Exactly. The sources highlight the Space Force, for example, reportedly saying it's woefully under-resourced for its critical missions.
So we're filling quotas, maybe compromising expertise in traditional branches, while the cutting-edge parts of the military might be struggling.
It certainly looks like a potential mismatch in priorities, where optics might be winning out over operational needs. But this kind of institutional concern, it's not just federal agencies or the military.
No, the sources point to state-level politics, too, and efforts to control the information that might expose these problems.
Let's touch on the domestic corruption claims. This idea of needing to drain the swamp, but, closer to home.
Okay. There are these persistent rumors mentioned about Massachusetts, a potential federal criminal investigation.
Yeah, targeting the state auditor, Diana DeZolio, and maybe even bigger names, like House Speaker Ron Mariano and Senate President Karen Spilka. Powerful figures.
Now, whether these investigations are real or just rumors.
The fact they're circulating so widely suggests maybe some real nervousness inside state political structures. The narrative presented is that corruption might be so ingrained that only the feds could possibly clean it up, hence potential power struggles.
And while these kinds of rumors are bubbling up, potentially exposing issues.
You also see moves to control the narrative, like reports that former President Obama is advocating for government regulation of social media,
To limit what he calls hateful or polarizing voices.
which critics argue is often code for dissenting voices. If inconvenient facts like e-verify failures or falling military standards get traction on alternative platforms, one way to handle it is to try and regulate those platforms.
Control the information flow, basically.
It's a key tactic when perhaps operational integrity itself is shaky.
And speaking of control and monitoring, there's new surveillance tech emerging. Airships.
Right, this hydrogen-powered airship from a company called Kalu. It's about the size of a car, maybe 12 meters, 40 feet long.
What's special about it for surveillance? It's environmentally friendly, apparently.
Yeah, 99.5% lower emissions, which is interesting. But the key thing is endurance.
How long can it stay up?
More than 12 hours per mission. Think about that compared to drones that need frequent refueling or recharging.
So it can just loiter silently.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Silent, clean, persistent surveillance for half a day or more. That drastically reduces gaps in coverage. It's the kind of thing defense organizations like NATO, who are reportedly interested, really value for continuous intelligence gathering.
Okay, so we've covered institutional integrity, standards, information control. Now we get to the really explosive stuff in these sources. The claims about elite secrets, specifically focusing on the royals and Princess Diana.
Yeah, this is where it gets into very dramatic territory. The questions repeated across the source material are stark. What happened to Diana? What did she know? Why was she running?
And there's a core conspiracy theory that emerges, isn't there?
A very specific and, frankly, disturbing one. The central claim is that Diana didn't just die in an accident, but was murdered.
Allegedly by the royal family itself, or MI6. Some sources even point fingers directly at King Charles.
That's the allegation. And the supposed motives vary. She was trying to leave some kind of control system, this Dianetics the Anglican axis mentioned in some fringe sources, or
she knew something about the royal lineage.
Yes, these claims, however wild they sound, persist. That Prince William isn't Charles's son, but a Rothschild's, and Prince Harry isn't Charles's son, but Major James Hewitt's.
Implying a kind of orchestrated control at the very top. It sounds like fiction, but the fact these ideas persist says something about deep distrust.
It absolutely does. And what's notable is how these more extreme theories sometimes connect back to documented instances of elite protection or criminality.
Like the connection to Bishop Peter Ball.
Exactly. The sources allege that Charles, when he was Prince of Wales, gave sanctuary on Duchy of Cornwall property to Bishop Peter Ball,
who was later convicted and jailed for horrible sexual abuse spanning decades.
Right. So you have this verifiable instance of protection offered by the highest levels, and then there are other links drawn in the sources.
The Jeffrey Epstein connection.
Claims that Epstein told a journalist he had escorted Princess Diana. It ties the royal narrative, even tangentially, into that whole global trafficking scandal.
And Mohammed Al-Fayed, whose son Dodi died with Diana.
He himself faced numerous accusations of sexual assault from former employees over the years.
So placing these things side by side, the conspiracy theories, the documented protection of abusers, the links to Epstein, the accusations against Fayed, it paints a pattern, doesn't it? A disturbing picture of potential impunity among the elite.
It does. The sources weave together documented facts with these persistent, darker allegations.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this for you, the listener. We've looked at concrete, documented failures like in immigration verification with E-Verify.
Which seems to connect, according to these sources, to a documented lowering of standards in the U.S. Navy, quantity over quality.
And this is happening while rumors of serious political corruption are swirling at the state level.
At the same time, there are reported efforts by powerful figures to control the information, to regulate social media, while new tech offers more persistent surveillance possibilities.
And layered underneath all of that are these profound, dramatic, and persistent claims about elite secrets, royal conspiracies, even murder, often linked back to known figures involved in other scandals.
The pattern that emerges from stacking all this source material is one of eroding integrity in key institutions, coupled with tightening control over the narrative surrounding that erosion.
Which leaves us, and you, with a pretty provocative final thought to chew on. If the systems we rely on for basic security border checks, military standards are demonstrably being weakened.
And if the claims about elite corruption and secrecy, even the most extreme ones, just won't go away,
then who exactly is policing the truth anymore? And
Yeah.
maybe more importantly, how much power have we unknowingly handed over to the very systems we thought were there to protect us?